Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to call to order this meeting of our Health, Environment, and Community Engagement Committee. I'm Councilmember Cam Gordon. I chair the committee, and today I'm joined by Council Members Glidden, Bender, and Fry, and we are a quorum of the committee, so we can do the committee's business. I think I'm going to go through our consent items first, and then we'll take our presentation after that, and then our discussion items. And anything on the consent agenda, committee members can pull off if you want to discuss or have any questions. First consent item is authorizing an amendment to an agreement with Fairview Diagnostic Laboratories to increase the amount by $180,000 and not to exceed $540,000 for the contract that will then go through December 31st, 2021 for school-based clinic services. Second item is approving a council appointment of KJ Starr to the Public Health Advisory Committee. Third item is setting a public hearing for June 19th to consider an ordinance amendment of Title 10, Chapter 188 of our code relating to the Food Code, Administration and Licensing, amending the section entitled Selling and Sorting on Streets. The fifth item has to do with the amplified sound permit, and I'm going to move to refer that back to staff. It's not completely ready, is my understanding. The sixth item then is approving various appointments to the Minneapolis Advisory Committee on Aging. I'm not sure if anybody is here, but if anybody is with that group, thank you so much for your willingness to serve. You can see all the appointees on the agenda. And the seventh item is setting a public hearing also for June 19th to consider our appointments to the Neighborhood and Community Engagement Commission. Moving all those forward with number 5 to be referred back to staff. Does anyone want to pull anything off for discussion? Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can we have an explanation, and this may require staff, as to why number 5 is being referred back?
Oh, maybe I've got that wrong. Because that I know that we wanted to refer back the amplifying sound permit, but I see that's for the X Games. So I'm going to take that back. We're going to go ahead and approve that one. It's actually number 10, which is the ordinance amendment that we're going to refer back to staff. Thanks for calling that to my attention.
Thank you.
So, Peggy, I take that back. Just kidding. We will move forward with number 5. So on that then, seeing no other discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those motions carry then. Then we're going to move on to our exciting presentations. This is our 2017 Minneapolis Green Business Awards for Clean Air Projects in Pollution Reduction and Energy Efficiency. And I believe we're going to have Patrick Hanlon come up to present the awards. We have 7 award winners this year. And tell us more about what they did and who they are. Welcome.
Chair Gordon, council members, my name is Patrick Hanlon. I'm the Environmental Initiatives Manager for the City of Minneapolis Health Department. And I thought I'd kick us off with having Bill Dressler from Environmental Initiative give us kind of a higher level view of the Green Business Program. We'll be talking about the Green Business results from 2012 to 2017 today. And Bill will kick us off.
Thank you, Patrick.
Wonderful. Welcome.
Pleasure. Chair Gordon, council members, thank you for this opportunity. It's really an honor. When Patrick told me about 2 hours ago that I'd be leading off, I didn't think we were worthy, but the program is definitely worthy. My name is Bill Dressler. I work for Environmental Initiative. I'm the director of Clean Air Minnesota. We're a nonprofit. We focus on public-private partnerships, and since 2003, we've been working to convene leaders on air quality issues, excuse me, in Minnesota, focusing on crafting emission and exposure reduction projects. Through the program and the partnership with the city, we've actually cleaned up every eligible school bus in the city and every eligible piece of diesel equipment that you run and operate in the city. And we're working with you on the Volkswagen proposal, hopefully, to do even more and everything that's left and beyond. So I first want to start to thanking Patrick, Dan Huff, and Gretchen Musicat again for establishing this program that we're going to talk about today, and for you for all the funding and support that you've given it over the last couple of years, and to recognize that this is a nationally pioneering and award-winning effort to do these kinds of partnerships this way at this level. And Gretchen, Dan, and Patrick are too modest to talk about it this way, so we'll do it on their behalf, and that it's good for the community, and that a lot of people find it to be almost a sport these days to bash government about things that aren't working. This is something that is working remarkably well. So it's an honor to talk about this afternoon. And through these efforts, the city is displaying strong leadership and uniquely providing environmental, health, and economic benefits at the same time in the same projects, and all through a completely voluntary public-private venture. And as if that weren't enough, all these public funds are being leveraged multiple times through multiple private funding sources. So all of this taken together makes our area healthier, better economically, more competitive, and continues these environmental improvements over the years. And working through these diverse public-private partnerships to find mutually beneficial goals. And one of the other major takeaways for today, as you hear about the specific projects and these award-winning projects, is that they're helping us to clean up some of the toughest to get at pollution sources in our region and in the city. Only about 25% of the pollution these days comes from the typical smokestack industries. The rest of it comes from primarily how we move ourselves and goods around the community and the smaller, more dispersed, less regulated sources in the neighborhoods. Things like dry cleaners, auto repair shops, print shops, and things like that, small manufacturers. So these projects that you're going to hear about, the award-winning projects, are gaining enormous pollution reductions in our backyards, our neighborhoods, and for our region. Patrick and the other programs will talk about the numbers, and they are just monumental for these kinds of projects in comparison to cities of this size around the country. So for that, again, I want to thank the city for everything they've done to support this program. We hope to work with it for years to come, doing these same kinds of voluntary public-private partnerships. So congratulations. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Can you hear me if I go the rest of the presentation from
Yep.
here?
We got it.
So to kick us off, to start off where the Green Business Program started, in 2010, a frustrated government employee walked into a liquor store. And that sounds like the beginning of a joke, but it's not. And I was frustrated for this reason, is that we would go out as inspectors in our program, and we would deal with environmental issues in the city. We would get complaints from citizens about maybe an automotive shop or a dry cleaner in their neighborhood or a manufacturing facility. And some of the cases, many of the cases we could deal with our partners at Hennepin County, the state. But there were a significant amount of problems that we couldn't deal with. And we would go out, we would inspect, we would investigate. Again, we would work with Hennepin County and the state, and we would find that the businesses are following the law, and they're running a lawful business. And some of our monitoring equipment and subsequently our air quality study found that there were areas of concern around these businesses, and we weren't able to do anything about that. And so we were in a loop of using time and money with resources in inspecting, investigating, reporting, closing those cases, and then we would go back in that loop and waste a lot of resources. So that frustrated employee or government worker walked into Mac's Liquor in St. Louis Park, and I found an owner there, Mac, who was heating his business with a corn stove. He got the corn from a local farmer who would bring the corn in, and in exchange for the corn, Mac would collect the grease from a Chinese restaurant next door. And I thought that was a cool ecosystem of dealing with issues and innovating in a business. And then Mac was sitting there one day in the middle of Minnesota, and he was looking at his coolers, and he asked himself, why am I paying to cool coolers in the middle of Minnesota when it's 0 degrees out? So he came up with a system to draw air into his coolers and save himself money that way. And so it got me thinking, as I was frustrated with some of the issues that we were dealing with, is entrepreneurs, they make a living solving problems. They make a living innovating. That's what they do for their livelihood. And they have to ensure that those ideas are feasible when they come up with those ideas, and they're able to do things quickly. And these are a lot of traits that we don't easily do here in government. And so I thought, how can we put those entrepreneurs and that talent to work for the city? And so I used to call this the win-win solution, but I came across this term. It's called the one-win everything solution. It's coined by the Dalai Lama, and it's where everyone wins. Not only the two people involved, but the public, and it goes so far as even the whole world, not to be melodramatic. But the Green Business Program was developed as a way that the business, the community, the U of M, nonprofits like EI, where Bill is from, the state of Minnesota, and the city can come together to solve environmental challenges, leaving everyone better off, a one-win everything solution. And this program has been developed over the last 5 years, by business owners first and foremost, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, Minnesota Department of Health, Hennepin County, University of Minnesota Technical Assistance Program, Environmental Initiative, American Lung Association, the Chamber of Commerce, both state and regional, and specifically through the Energy Smart program. Excel Energy also utilizes that or assists with that Energy Smart program. Centerpoint, Center for Energy Environment, Lake Street Council, Center for Earth, Energy, and Democracy, and other Clean Air Minnesota partners. It's a lot of people to be grateful for in developing this program. So the initial response to that concept was no. 2 years in a row, it was no. And I only put that up here because sometimes developing new ideas is not easy, and this program was not easy to get going and get started. Finally, in 2012, the idea was given a shot specifically for dry cleaning, in addressing dry cleaning in Minneapolis, and no one responded for most of the first year that we had it open, until this guy stepped forward. Tyler Avestini at Avestopoulos Cleaners in North Minneapolis took a chance on us in switching away from PERC at his dry cleaning business in North Minneapolis, and got the program rolling. It was about $100,000 investment for Mr. Avestini, and not a huge return on investment with the project, but he wanted to do it for the health of himself, his workers, and the people in the nearby community. In 2013, this is a picture of Martinizing Dry Cleaner, taking a dry cleaning machine out. And as you can see, it's not an easy, not only is there around $100,000 investment for these businesses, but they have to shut down business for a few days. And in this case, it involved punching out a wall to get the machine out. We also worked with University Auto Service that year. That was the first year we did energy efficiency projects. And then we worked with Paramount Collision, changing to waterborne paint from high VOC content paint. In 2014, we worked with Oscar Auto Body, who has become a poster child for statewide public-private partnership. We worked with the state, we worked with the city, and then Minnesota Technical Assistance Program, and getting that program going. It was switching to waterborne paint. In 2014, we also worked with Dunwoody. One of the biggest challenges for businesses in changing to waterborne paint from more polluting VOC content paints is the paint techs themselves not being trained. And so Dunwoody is now training. It used to be 80% of their program was in high VOC paints and 20% was in waterborne. Well, they flipped that. And so now they're training in 20% of their program is high VOC paints and 80% is in waterborne, and training the next generation of techs to be out there. U.S. Cleaners, we brought that before council a couple times in talking about that case. That was where a dry cleaner was co-located with a Somali daycare. And they worked in quick fashion to get that machine moved out through the Green Business Cost Share program. In 2015, we worked with Central Avenue Auto. They switched from another auto body shop, switching to waterborne paint in a residential neighborhood. And then that was the first year that we moved into manufacturing. So we worked with Unison Comfort Technologies, and we partnered with the Grow North Minneapolis program in keeping 95 employees here while changing out their paint booth to have cleaner, safer practices in the manufacturing facility for HVAC equipment. And then Smythe Printing to date was the largest pollution reduction project that we've had. I just checked back with them a couple months ago, and they're around 20,000 pounds of VOC reductions. 2016, that's what we're here to talk about today, is the businesses who took part in that. And as you can see, the program is starting to grow. There are 18 businesses, and we'll be recognizing 7 of them here today. And we also last year won, as Bill mentioned, a national award through the National Association of County and City Health Officials for being a model practice nationally. 2017, this is what we have to look forward to for next year. We have, yes, well, always right. And so we currently have more requests than we have money to fund all of these projects. But we have moved into energy efficiency. We still have our base with getting dry cleaners. We have 3 dry cleaners that submitted this year. And we've moved into renewables with some requests for solar. And so Bill had mentioned leveraging funding. The Green Business Cost Share Program leverages investments 6 to 1. So we do 6 times as much as we can do with our individual dollars by working with our partners in the business community. The green business projects that these are the green business projects that we've worked on. The lighter green are the projects that are proposed. And if you look at where the projects have happened, we're noticing the importance of focused outreach in areas. And one of our main partners in doing that focused outreach is the Lake Street Council. And so we're trying to look at how we can replicate the success that we're having in South Minneapolis and bring that to the areas that we're not getting into as well in North Minneapolis. And so that's one of the challenges that we have going forward. And if Matt Kazinka could talk a little bit about the approach that they take.
Welcome.
Chair Gordon, council members, thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Matt Kazinka. I work for the Lake Street Council. I also serve as the co-chair of the Clean Energy Partnerships Energy Vision Advisory Committee. And I'd like to speak about how the Green Business Cost Share Program has helped make energy efficiency more accessible to small business owners along Lake Street and in Minneapolis. Over the past 3 years, the Lake Street Council has helped business owners in our corridor take advantage of cost-saving energy efficiency opportunities. In partnership with the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce's Energy Smart program, we've helped over 150 businesses identify the best efficiency measures available to them. And together, we've helped dozens of those businesses navigate utility programs, receive technical assistance, and take advantage of the cost share program's financial incentives. Any professional that works in the energy efficiency field will tell you that there are significant barriers that keep small businesses from participating in efficiency programs. First, many business owners are unaware that programs even exist to help them. Second, many don't have the time to initiate their own efficiency projects and navigate the many programs and resources available to them. And third, they often just can't afford to invest or to borrow the cash needed to fund these improvements. The Green Business Cost Share Program is an important tool for addressing that financial barrier. Over the past year that we've been working with it, I've seen the financial incentive available through this program make a tangible difference in the decision-making processes that businesses go through when they're weighing their options. Of course, additional resources are needed to help more businesses become aware that these opportunities exist and help them navigate the complicated system of resources that is out there to help them. I'd encourage you to consider how investments you're making here can be leveraged and expanded by working with the city's many business district partners, such as Lake Street Council, and with utility-funded resources like the Energy Smart program. We're very excited to work with you on this. So I want to thank the city for supporting the small business community in an important way. And of course, to thank the business owners that are here today and those that we've worked with for helping make these investments. Of course, they will benefit from lower energy bills over the coming years, but we all benefit from their presence on our streets and the actions they've taken to be more environmentally sustainable. Thank you.
And so year to date, this is the pollution that we've reduced so far. The 2017 numbers are projected with all projects completed. These are the criteria pollutants. These directly affect pollutants that can directly affect health, and they contribute to our regional air quality issues with ground level ozone and fine particulate emissions. And so as you can see, we had a significant jump in 2017. We've exceeded 100,000 pounds of pollution reduction in criteria pollutants, and that's 50 tons. If you consider that some of these pollutants are harmful to health in the microgram, the fact that we're reducing 50 tons is significant. As we're talking about, we've moved into energy efficiency and energy efficiency and solar, specifically with renewables. And in about a year of this program, this is the results: 16 million pounds of carbon eliminated. That's equivalent to about 1,500 cars off of our roads in terms of emissions. And so significant reductions in CO2 reduction as well. So the Green Business Program as potential, and thank you, Nadia, for humoring me with this picture. It's a powerful tool to address pollution and climate change. It's a tool that can be used to meet our Minneapolis clean air targets in getting our ground level ozone, fine particulates, air toxics below health benchmarks and the role that we can play as stewards of our air. It can help through Clean Air Minnesota in displaying, as Bill mentioned, statewide leadership and how we can work with private partners to address air pollution. It's a tool that can be used in our climate action plan in getting to 30% by 2025 in CO2 reductions, and through those, as Matt mentioned, through the Clean Energy Partnership and working together. And the recipe is simple. It's charging for the cost of pollution. It's reinvesting those solutions to address the pollution. And that's a catalyst for change to do things faster. If we can get this last dry cleaner to switch over, we will be the first major city that I know of to switch away from PERC, a harmful, hazardous, cancer-causing chemical. And that's evidence with that small number that it's a catalyst for moving forward. And as Matt mentioned with energy efficiency, it's a catalyst to moving forward with projects faster. It's a one-win everything solution. So I like this graphic. That the Green Business Program, I say we are here. It's I'd say last year we stood up, and this year we're starting to walk. And so these are the targets. I mentioned some of those, but these are more specific, is having 0 days over health benchmarks for air quality, no chemicals over Minnesota Department of Health benchmarks in our neighborhoods, the results that we were looking at in our air quality study, 10% reduction in volatile organic compounds statewide. That's a Clean Air Minnesota target. And then that 30% CO2 reduction by 2025, driving towards our climate action goals. And so if we don't have questions on the presentation, I can move forward with the Green Business Awards.
Let's go for it.
So these are the top 7 green business cost share projects that were completed last year. The awards off to my left, your right, are from Wood from the Hood. They reclaim discarded trees from urban neighborhoods to create beautiful, high-quality wood products, and they are very cool looking, I think. The awards will be presented by City of Minneapolis Commissioner Gretchen Musicant. I believe we have a microphone over there as well. Okay. And so we'll have a few words from the business owners as well. I know that Trent, this is the first 2017 Green Business Award, is to Allied Parking, and I don't know if Trent's still here. Do you want to go stand up, Gretchen?
Congratulations.
I know Trent is short on time, so I had him go first.
Appreciate it.
Anything to say?
They reduced at the Gateway ramp on 400 South 3rd Street, right around the corner here. They reduced energy usage of the facility and lowered their carbon footprint by 247,527 pounds of CO2. That project is equivalent to saving over 12,000 gallons of gasoline in terms of carbon emissions. And as an added benefit, the new lower level lighting is safer. And there's some pictures of the difference between the two projects. And they are not stopping there, as I know they have other projects that they're doing around the city like this, and I think the one that they have slated for this year is almost double the impact of this one. So thank you very much for the work that you're doing around the city in reducing energy usage.
Do you want to say anything?
Sure. I just want to thank Patrick and Nadia with the city. They made the whole process very simple and just made it very simple to justify with our owners and get these projects moving forward. So appreciate it.
Thank you. And the next award goes to Elite Cleaners, Samir and Pinky Patel. They were so excited to come. They're not here. Okay. Samir and Pinky are at 3101 Minnehaha Avenue. They're the 10th dry cleaner to switch away from PERC in Minneapolis. And this was also part of a partnership with Environmental Initiative. And they also they made this huge commitment in their business at the same time that they had some major construction going on Minnehaha that also affected their business. So it was a huge investment by them, and we're very grateful. Yeah, I wish they had come. And so we'll move on to the next one. I will deliver that to them. The next award goes to Dinsmore Cleaners and Launderers, Jean and Mary Beth. Clean air. Yep. Thank you. So they switched away from PERC in the dry cleaning process. They are the 11th dry cleaner to switch away from PERC in Minneapolis, and they were able to make that decision on short notice. We had another dry cleaner drop out, and we asked if they were interested, and they were able to pull things around in a month or maybe a little over a month, which is supersonic speed in trying to put together these kinds of alterations to your business. So thank you very much for stepping up very quickly and getting this project done. And if you want to say a few words.
Thank you to the city for helping us fund our new clean machine. This is my daughter, and she has done some advertising and some work and some thank yous. I'll let her show you.
Oh, I didn't bring them up. I have them back there. Yeah, we did some advertising this spring, and we turned all green, and then we got some thank you from the Logan Park neighborhood too, so it was really nice. But these were the advertising that we ran, and it turned out really good. It's turned out nice. So, so the neighborhood appreciates it, and we appreciate it too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next award goes to Prospect Foundry, Darren Carlson at 1225 Winter Street Northeast. Energy efficiency. And Darren is committed to continuous efficiency in his operations, and this first project was a huge one. The overall reduction in energy use was over 900,000 kilowatt hours, and that's equivalent to taking 134 cars off the road with a single project. It was a significant investment by his company, and I know he also is looking at other ways that they can improve efficiency and look at air quality emission reductions at their facilities. So he's just constantly looking for continuous improvement. So thank you very much. If you have a few words you want to say.
Yeah, I would like to thank Patrick and his team. It was very helpful to have the support of the city behind us, and I think they have a light bulb right there that they took out of there. This not only went from the standpoint of it's the right thing to do from the energy standpoint, and you can see the numbers up there, but it also improved the lighting in the place and the employee morale. So it made a significant difference. Customers recognize it, employees recognize it, and yeah, we got a lot more on the table to do. So we're looking forward to it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you again.
Maybe I can hold that next to my head for reference. I don't know if that's I saw that and I was like, oh, can I have that? So the next one goes to Mercado Central at 1515 East Lake Street. Miguel Sanchez and Juan Linares. Miguel is the president of the Cooperativa Mercado Central. And I didn't know this before this project, but Mercado Central has a long history as the first Latino cooperative marketplace in Minnesota. The changes were made at Mercado Central were equivalent to 121,000 vehicle passenger miles eliminated in a year in our city. So thank you very much for your work.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Miguel Sanchez. I'm behalf of the Cooperativa Mercado Central. We want to extend our gratitude to the City of Minneapolis Co-Share Grant Program Award. And we also want to thanks to Lake Street Council and the Excel Energy for their advice and support and collaborations. Thank you all. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Muchas gracias. Thank you. The next business is Longfellow Market. I believe they could not make it today. They are reducing the equivalent of 63,000 pounds of carbon with their energy efficiency upgrades that were made last year. That's equivalent to about 4 homes of energy use. And so they also couldn't make it, and I will drop that award off for them. They were incredibly busy and had to cancel. Oh, and I just wanted to point out with those 2 pictures, not only are we talking about energy efficiency in some of these businesses, is if you look at the light on the top picture in the back row that's circled there, that's out. One of the big advantages of switching to LED light for a lot of the business owners is the maintenance that's required to change out light bulbs. Not quite that big, but other light bulbs that are needed to change out. So it's a saving in time as well. The last one is Taqueria La Hacienda at 334 East Lake Street, Miguel and Azucena. Energy efficiency. I thought this was a great project. It's an energy saving systems from Malink system. Will reduce climate emissions in both energy and gas. It's one of the first businesses, or the first business on Lake Street corridor, to install a demand controlled ventilation system. And La Hacienda, in their application, wanted to serve as an advocate for it and other energy efficiency technologies. And it certainly is a technology or an offer we will take you up on. It's a way for businesses to save both heat and electricity through the demand system. And it was a very unique project, and we'd love to have other businesses look at that as a model. So thank you very much. And their project was equivalent to planting 500 trees in terms of energy reduction. So thank you very much.
Hi, City Councils, Minneapolis. My name is Miguel Sagal from Taqueria La Hacienda. I just want to say thank you to City of Minneapolis for creating this, the Green Business Program. Thanks to this program, I was able to put a new ventilation system in my restaurant. And it's because of that, I'm saving about $5,000 every year on energy bills, like electricity and gas. But not only that, I think the most important thing here is that it feels good that we are helping the environment. Yeah. Also, I want to say thank you to Matthew and Allison from Lake Street Council, and Chris from Minnesota Chamber of Commerce. They helped me in the process in order to make a reality this project. Thank you.
Thank you. So these were the top projects. We had other projects, the honorable mentions, Village at Franklin Station, Cedar Riverside Liquor, La Mexicana, Minnesota Council of Churches, Qatar River Restaurant, Chabelle Market, and if I'm butchering any of these names, please let me know. St. Vincent de Paul, Best for Less Tires, Volkswagen Man, The Lift Garage, and Mid-Continent. I want to thank all of them for their contributions as well. Like I said earlier, the reductions that they had from all of these projects has reduced a significant amount of pollution in Minneapolis, both in our neighborhoods and the pollution that contributes to regional air quality issues. So, and I find myself with this program, it's hard to thank enough people for everything, but I will wrap this up. I want to thank Gretchen Musicant for trusting her employees to lead programs like this. Dan Huff for helping bring these programs forward year in and year out to get them in the budget as a priority. Nadia Khan, who, as you heard from some of these folks here, carries a lot of the weight of this program and does an amazing job of getting everything processed and out the door, along with Sebwe Bekele, who also administers a lot of our contracts and does a lot of work in that area. Jim Doughton for his technical assistance in starting out with the dry cleaning program. Jenny Lansing for the air quality, the technical expertise in going in and doing air quality sampling. We have some data that is going to be very valuable for other cities as they look at addressing some of these issues. Katie Schmidt for going out there and getting projects in through our benchmarking program on our larger buildings here in Minneapolis. She's a lot of energy and no pun intended, and does a great job of looking at our projects and seeing which ones are viable and getting the most bang for our buck. I want to thank Kelly Mulman for the green zones and adding an equity lens to the program through the green zones in how we can address equity in Minneapolis with this program. Erica Prosser for first listening to this program and for getting Mayor R.T. Rybeck to sit down and listen to the program in the first place. And then I want to thank all of you. It's in supporting this program over the last 5 to 6 years now. It's been a great trip, and I hope that we can keep going and keep getting some significant quantifiable results here in Minneapolis. So thank you very much. I'm very grateful.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Patrick, for once again a wonderful presentation. Congratulations to all the award winners here and who aren't here. Really appreciate your partnership in doing this, and not only benefits your businesses but also the health of our city. I don't see any comments or questions, so and I think we I guess we can move to receive the presentation. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're ready to move on to our next item, which is the annual report from our Public Health Advisory Committee. We'll get it readjusted here. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Chair Gordon and the committee members, my name is Sarah Jane Caveney, and I'm part of the Public Health Advisory Committee. I represent Ward 9.
And I'm Margaret Reinhardt, also known as Peggy, and Ward 10 representative to the Public Health Advisory Committee. I live at 2733 Girard Avenue South.
I'm going to cut you. I live at 3528 Park Avenue. I forgot to tell you my address.
Thank you.
We're here to present the 2016 annual report of the Public Health Advisory Committee. Our committee is made up of 20 members who represent each ward in Minneapolis, with 1 representative of the mayor's office, 3 representatives from the University of Minnesota School of Public Health, Minneapolis Public Schools, and the Hennepin County Public Health Department. We also have 3 members at large appointed by the committee. It is expected that all parties responsible for recruitment, recommendation, and approval of members make every effort to ensure the committee composition reflects the diverse interests and perspectives of the Minneapolis community. The Public Health Advisory Committee is charged with these responsibilities: to advise the City Council on general roles and functions of the Health Department and on policy matters which affect the health of Minneapolis residents. Review proposed priorities of the Health Department, provide input and make recommendations, and consider complaints, concerns, and views expressed by residents regarding public health services, to forward those concerns and make recommendations as necessary to the City Council and/or the Health Department. Each year, the committee conducts a member survey to help set priorities for learning and discussion and to consider possible recommendations to the Minneapolis Health Department and to the City Council. Committee priorities provide direction to agenda planning. Agenda planning is also influenced by input from the Health Department regarding programs and initiatives from City Council members, other city departments, ward or neighborhood concerns, and the professional perspectives of committee members. Monthly meetings are held in City Hall from 6 to 8 p.m. on the 4th Tuesday of each month as scheduled. Meetings alternate between full committee meetings, where we often hear presentations on various topics, and subcommittee meetings where discussion or other committee business happens. 3 standing subcommittees including policy and planning, communications and operations, and collaboration and engagement. During the course of 2016, the Public Health Advisory Committee reviewed and discussed these public health issues: healthy environments, healthy people, recycled tires as ground cover in Minneapolis, and I'll go back over the healthy environments, complete streets policy and approaches to planning, North Side Greenway project and community engagement, and Minneapolis climate change vulnerability assessment. Healthy people, paid sick and safe time ordinance, school-based clinics and mental health services, chronic single adult homelessness, and preventing youth violence. Regarding recycled tires as ground cover in Minneapolis, as directed by the City Council in collaboration with the Community Environmental Advisory Committee, committees were asked to study this issue, develop a set of recommendations, and report back to your committee, which occurred in February of 2017. Okay. The Public Health Advisory Committee often acts as a sounding board for health department programs and initiatives. In 2016, we heard presentations on the Complete Streets policy and approaches to planning, the Northside Greenway, and the climate change vulnerability assessment. PHAC submitted a letter of support to City Council encouraging the adoption of a Complete Streets policy and supported the policy and resolutions presented by the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committees. Our letter emphasized prioritizing the safety and accessibility of pedestrians, bicyclists, and transit users, ensuring transparent and equitable community engagement throughout the planning process, and prioritizing investment in communities most affected by policies that led to decreased access to walkable, bikeable, and alternate transit options. The City Council adopted a Complete Streets policy on May 27, 2016. The committee received an update on the proposed layout of the Northside Greenway project, a summary of the community engagement before installation, and ongoing evaluation of resident feedback after installation. Additionally, the committee received a presentation on the climate change vulnerability assessment completed by students from the Humphrey School of Public Affairs.
Our committee received several presentations related to healthy people, including the sick and safe time ordinance, an overview of the school-based clinic programs and mental health services, single adult chronic homelessness, and preventing youth violence. The Public Health Advisory Committee followed the mayor's proposed working families agenda, which included fair scheduling, protection from wage theft, and earned sick and safe time. As state and local discussions focused on earned sick and safe time as the primary agenda item, the Public Health Advisory Committee further studied the issue and took action to support this effort. Our committee submitted a letter of support to the Workplace Partnership Group in December 2015 and provided testimony here at the public hearing held May 16, 2016. On May 27, 2016, the City Council passed the Workplace Regulations Ordinance to include paid sick and safe time. The presentation from the Health Department's school-based clinics and mental health services reviewed their priorities at the for physical care and treatment, prevention and planning, health education, and mental health services for adolescents in 7 Minneapolis public schools. The committee heard an analysis of single adult chronic homelessness in Hennepin County presented by students from the Humphrey School of Public Affairs. We also heard an overview on the blueprint for action goals and initiatives for preventing youth violence in Minneapolis. In June 2016, this council, the HECE committee, directed the Public Health Advisory Committee and CHAC to study recycled tires as ground cover in Minneapolis, to develop a set of recommendations and then report back to HECE in February of 2017. A subcommittee, including representation from PHAC and CHAC members, Minneapolis Public Schools, and Minneapolis Park and Rec Board, city staff from the City Health Department and the Sustainability Office. From July through December 2016, the study took place in the form of presentations, web research, and a panel discussion. By December 2016, a set of recommendations were developed and approved by both committees, and a presentation was made here to HECE in February of 2017. Our healthy place to live. Minneapolis has been seen as an explosion of housing, rental development in the downtown area on the University of Minnesota campus, along the Greenway and Uptown, and the green-blue light rail lines. Vacancy rates for 1 or 2 bedroom units in Minneapolis are at historic lows, while average rents have significantly increased, and rental assistance dollars have remained unchanged for decades. The availability of affordable housing units is scarce, creating a competitive housing market among the most vulnerable Minneapolis residents. In 2015, the Public Health Advisory Committee reported a gap in resident input and oversight in the early stages of housing development regarding affordable housing needs, availability of different types of housing units, and housing development. A proposal for the development of a housing advisory committee was presented to council members Gordon and Bender and discussed in a meeting which included staff from a cross-section of city departments and council member aides. Council members Bender and Gordon suggested delaying further discussion on this proposal given the comprehensive planning process, which was about to begin. Housing could be worked into the planning team. Additionally, there was much housing work underway between CPED, regulatory services, zoning, the Bloomberg Initiative, and the Cradle to K plan. The Public Health Advisory Committee continues to see a gap in this area and would like to revive this proposal and discussion. The Public Health Advisory Committee liaisons, our committee participated in these ways. Jennifer Peltier, a former Public Health Advisory Committee co-chair, became the liaison to the comprehensive plan for us, the health research team. She kept the committee informed of the opportunities to provide feedback on the comprehensive plan and reported back to the committee. Yolanda Adams-Lee, member at large, became our Public Health Advisory Committee liaison to the Green Zones work group. The Communications and Operations Subcommittee reviews applications as seats are vacated. We assist in reviewing certificates of recognition for members leaving the committee and conducting new member orientation. Several of our committee members reached their 6-year term limit, and their contributions were recognized in December of 2016. Several Public Health Advisory Committee members participated in a gathering hosted by Councilmember Gordon for the boards and commissions that report here to HECE. It was a great opportunity to connect with other committee members, discuss ways to engage the civic process, and see how our work might align between various committees. Some of our highlights for 2017 will continue our responsibilities that we're charged with, which include advising the City Council and Health Department and discussing health concerns. We also plan to engage future decision makers by mentoring our new committee members, welcoming student guests at our meetings, and inviting presentations from youth. We will continue to delve further into our committee priorities of housing affordability and sustainability, homelessness, health disparities and health equity, mental health, sex trafficking, and youth violence prevention. And we'd like to renew discussions with council members and the comprehensive planning team on the establishment of a Citizen Housing Advisory Committee, a gap which the Public Health Advisory Committee identifies after months of study and discussion around homelessness, affordable housing needs, and housing development. Thank you. We'd like to remind you that our meetings are open to the public and held on the 4th Tuesday of each month from 6 to 8 p.m. in City Hall, room 132. Thank you for your time this afternoon. Our meeting records are also available on the Minneapolis Health Department website. This concludes our presentation, but we're happy to stand for questions.
Thank you very much. I certainly appreciate all the work that you did over the year and also the report. I wonder if I could just stop for a minute on the issue of the Housing Committee, because I noticed you emphasized that a few times in the report and the fact that we didn't create it. And maybe there's a chance to revisit that. One of the things that's been discussed elsewhere is actually some kind of tenants support committee or something that would actually be more focused on rental property. I know that we worked on this for a while with another department, and there were some community groups and discussions. We also have a rental housing advisory committee, but it's an advisory to staff, kind of an internal group, and it has somebody from the Multifamily Housing Association on it. And I think one of the tricky things is this committee doesn't necessarily deal with housing issues. It's another committee with another chair, and we have to work with that. But if it focused on renters or tenants specifically, would that meet your need, or what was your vision on it more, you think? Yeah.
If I can address that, Chair Gordon and members of the committee, my background is in public health nutrition. What I see is when people spend 50-60% of their household budget on housing, regardless of being a renter or a homeowner, they have little money left for food, for utilities, for doctor bills. And while I was a renter for many, many years, and I really appreciate the effort to have a tenants council or renters council, just an awareness that sometimes even homeowners also can have problems with affordability.
Yeah, and then I guess a couple of other thoughts. One thought is that part of this is born out of many different groups that come to the Public Health Advisory Committee that talk about housing instability really impacting the work that they're doing. Even if it's lead-based paint, when people are coming and saying, I don't want to report that my landlord isn't doing this, or that my house doesn't have this because I'm not going to be able to afford housing and I'm going to lose this place. So I don't know that particularly renters' rights, I don't know how it currently is set up, if that's able to gather all of the impact that housing instability and insecurity has on individuals in our community. And then also we've heard a lot, the agenda that we set as the Public Health Advisory Committee was really to look at the impact and the layers of homelessness and mental health and how that impacts our community. Oftentimes housing that's available to people moving out of homelessness is not limited to rental. And so I don't know all the nuances of what the current advice, like how that's coming, and if that would capture all of those different perspectives.
It sounds like probably it wouldn't, but there may be some kind of synergy if we thought it would meet another need. It's a big lift to create a new advisory committee for the city. I will say that I think most of us were just at a joint meeting with the Met Council, and we spent 90 minutes talking about how, maybe I'm summarizing it wrong, but how challenging it's been to have any impact on the problem of housing affordability. The trend is just going in the wrong direction. So I think the need is growing. Did you want to have another comment?
I'm Margaret Schuster, and I work for the Health Department and help facilitate the Public Health Advisory Committee. So Chair Gordon and the other members of this committee, I just wanted to add that one of the things we heard about housing affordability and stability also had to do with families and the sizes of units that are available for people, and then the amount of income that they're spending on those particular units. So not only is there a decreased number of sizable units that allow for a family, an extended family, perhaps someone who's caring for a grandparent or an in-law, but then also the fact that any affordable housing that's out there is really creating kind of this competitive market among the people that need to be able to afford those or need to be able to secure that type of housing. So with the decreased amount of units available, and then also the sizes of the units, are not always applicable to what a particular family needs. It really creates this kind of competitive market among the people that really can't afford the amount of deposit or first and last rental or that kind of huge expense up front. So we know that it's a complicated issue, but at the same time, that's really what our committee is charged with, is bringing up the issues that are seen within our community. And that's one that this committee continues to hear from a variety of different sources. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to kind of echo what the chair said, which was, I think Councilmember Gordon and I actually really like the idea of creating a Food Advisory Committee that was multidisciplinary, but there was a lot of internal pushback about that, particularly the interdisciplinary nature of the committee being imagined, and a lot of competing ideas from council members and staff about whether or not we should have one and who should staff it and what kind of committee it should be and who should be on it. And so I think maybe we're just, of the many things that we decided to prioritize that we get pushed back on, this one didn't make it, so maybe we should have prioritized it more. But I mean, I think it's a good idea. Clearly, housing affordability is our city's probably number one policy concern right now. So it just has to be a matter of getting the support in the council, the full council, to create a new committee if that's the solution that we think is going to really advance the conversation. And again, I think it's a great idea to have it be a multidisciplinary conversation. I think part of that is happening in the comprehensive plan, but it wasn't meant to suggest that was, a replacement for a standing committee, but it was just one way I think the conversation could come forward, despite the fact we weren't able at the time to get consensus in the council about creating this kind of committee.
Councilmember Cano.
Thank you, Chair Gordon. So first of all, I appreciate the very thorough update. And Sarah, you and I have had a chance to have several exchanges on email about the work that the committee is doing and the commission. And so I really appreciate it because it makes me feel like there's some real-time interface to the work the council is touching and the work that the commission is doing. So I really appreciate that engaged activism to really ensure that we're aligning the conversations that are happening through this resident-driven voice, and then us as policymakers. So I just want to thank you for that because I've been really impressed with the relevancy of the work that you're bringing forward. The last sort of conversation that we had was around the shelters and the lack of available shelters for folks, and there was sort of I think like a moment in time where there were no available beds for many people. And so there was, a conversation between Commissioner Marion Green, myself, and some other folks here. I'm just curious, is the commission going to be taking that up more formally? Will there be some maybe recommendations coming forward after you've all taken a chance to sort of look at some of those things? Or kind of where do y'all feel that conversation is at now?
Yeah, thank you. Chair Gordon and committee members, thanks. Councilmember Cano for the question. Annually in the city of Minneapolis, we have a certain amount of beds that are shelter beds that are available over the winter months, and then a certain amount that are available over the summer months. And that's a consistent, This year we have a little bit different ability to track data and to really point out the inefficiencies, as well as to point out the vulnerabilities, the lack of available shelter beds. And then there's some other nuances about choice when people are experiencing homelessness. If there's certain agencies or certain places where they aren't feeling safe, there's some different trends beyond just data inefficiencies. Mm-hmm. So what we know is that we don't have sufficient shelter beds currently. The practice would be if you would call probably around 9:30 each day, there's no more male beds available. And usually by about 2, there's no female beds available. And they do have data, to kind of track that now that we're able to do that. There was some question around, I believe it was related to funding for the city of Minneapolis has some flexibility around some funding. But I think that ship has sailed. I think that the time for this year, we're probably too late to make any changes around it. But I do anticipate that will continue to be a trend, that especially during that May 1st deadline when the winter beds go offline, that we'll continue to have that bump where one day 150 people had a place that they were sleeping that night that isn't available to them the next day. I don't know if that answers specifically your question.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the background, and I'm glad to hear there's more data to track some of the realities. I would say that, Councilmember Jacob Fry and I sit on the Community Development and Regulatory Services Committee, and that would likely also take up a part of this conversation around housing. Yeah. And it would be great if your commission, if you're interested in looking deeper at this issue, to come up with some ideas or recommendations that we can take up at that committee level. And so I'd be happy to work with my colleague, Jacob Fry, and also the chair of the committee, Lisa Goodman, to find out if there's a time where we can dig a little bit more into this topic, because I know that was really difficult, when we were all trying to figure out what to do at that specific moment. But having more forward-looking plans and conversations around this, I think, would be helpful for us to figure out, how do we align our city resources in a more helpful manner.
Thank you, Chair Gordon and council members. I think that there would be a big interest within our committee for folks to, collaborate in any way that was, applicable, both with, I can't remember the acronym, CPED? Or the community development. Yeah, that's a long one. We'd love to do that, as well as, I do know that within the homeless community, there's some listening sessions that are coming up for people that are feeling particularly less safe now that those winter beds aren't available. And if there's any information from that we should be bringing forward, we can look at that. Yep.
And I would say that the council would probably appreciate it if you had a recommendation about what to do with the emergency shelter grants, which I think is the thing we've been discussing, and the fact that, and it might not even be necessarily too late this year. We did go out with a request for proposals, and we'll see what comes back to spend those. But if there aren't enough requests to spend that on the operating kind of side of it, I understand there's also a little tug of war with the county going on because they're not willing to expend the money to keep. Even one of the winter shelters wanted to stay open longer and was ready to, but they couldn't get funding to do so. So it made sense to me that maybe the city should try to fill a little gap there too, but we'll see. Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Councilmember Cano stole the words out of my mouth. I do think that you should, we would love to have you at the CDRS meeting. And please contact one or both of our offices in the near future so we can hopefully get you on the docket. I think there's some opportunities for some additional flexibility of the federal funding, as well as even potentially city and county funding as well. I mean, I can't think of an issue that's more critical. So thank you for your work.
Thank you. Yep.
That's quite an invitation. I'd also say that would be a committee where it would make a lot of sense to talk about creating a housing advisory committee, because the community development committee, certainly housing is more germane. Not that we know there isn't health in all policies going on here at the city and everywhere else, but that's really where a lot of the housing issues get discussed. I don't see any other comments or questions up here. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think I'll just move to receive and file the report then. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And then we'll move on to our next discussion item, which is a presentation of our Blueprint for Equitable Engagement dashboard. And I think we have Mr. Johnson's going to take the lead. As soon as we're ready, so take whatever time you need. I know that we also, council members, you should have gotten an email with a link to actually go on to get onto the dashboard online. I got it and it actually worked, so I encourage you to do that if you'd like to. Maybe while you're getting set up, I'll just take this opportunity to formally move the last item on the agenda, which I attempted to move earlier in the consent item. So I'm going to move item number 10, the permit requirements for amplified sound equipment ordinance, back to staff. That's at the request of the ordinance's author, and staff thinks that's reasonable too, to keep working on it. Any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Right.
Any opposed say no. That motion carries, and it brought us, so I think we're all ready for the presentation. Welcome.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So good afternoon, Chair Gordon and HESI committee members. My name is Donald Joseph. I'm the Deputy Director for the Neighborhood and Community Relations Department with the City of Minneapolis. I'm here to present the Blueprint for Equitable Engagement dashboard as a receive and file action. So the dashboard powered by Tableau is a data-driven report per staff direction on the Blueprint for Equitable Engagement Strategies that was adopted by Council back in May 2016. As a friendly reminder, the Blueprint for Equitable Engagement is a 5-year strategy to ensure that we are thinking about and implementing innovative and equitable engagement strategies for the city of Minneapolis. The NCR department is going to use the plan to better engage all of our residents for a better Minneapolis and to be aligned to the One Minneapolis goal. On the national level, as recently communicated at the Phoenix Summit on Government Performance and Innovation that was attended by Director Ruberdor, there is a widespread belief, or a common belief rather, that you can't measure engagement. We actually don't subscribe to that belief. We believe that aligned to the Blueprint for Equitable Engagement strategies, you could actually come up with some pretty impactful measures and metrics. And we thought this would be a good opportunity to also highlight some of the programs and projects that the NCR department has underway in partnership with other departments across the enterprise from both a quantitative and qualitative perspective. We have done extensive research to other U.S. cities, and we feel that that this is a good step, first step, but of course, we feel this is a work in progress. We need to develop this further. Over time, we intend to glean feedback from both internal and external partners, and we intend to track progress against the dashboard on an annual basis. I want to first give kudos to Justin Garter here, who's sitting on my right. He made the magic happen. He kind of ran with it. Tableau is a newer tool its use is proliferating across the enterprise, but I was just really impressed by he, never being trained on Tableau, was able to really come up with some pretty neat visualizations that I'm going to take you through. So kudos to you. I also want to thank the city coordinator results team that's not here, led by Andrea Larson. They were the ones that helped us present the information in alignment with the What City Works initiative, which is all about the so what, and it's all about key takeaways and actually figuring out the actions that you're going to take going forward. So I just wanted to take you down memory lane real quickly on the 5 blueprint strategies. For the image on the right, the Blueprint for Equitable Engagement was truly a collaboration between residents, community-based organizations, neighborhood organizations, the city as well as boards and appointed boards and commissions. Our role as an NCR department, and what we believe is our why statement, is to not only ensure that residents feel informed, they feel connected to their, they feel representative in their city government, and they also feel empowered to actually influence decisions that impact their lives on a day-to-day basis. So the first Blueprint for Equitable Engagement strategy is to expand community engagement strategies. This strategy will guide the department in developing and promoting engagement strategies that will pique the interest of all residents. The chart that you're looking at shows our diversity for appointed boards and commissions from 2014 to 2016. We are tracking this. We track these metrics in comparison to city demographics based on the 2014 American Census Survey. Please note, from a diversity perspective, we actually have one other category, which is on our LGBTQA plus community. But because there isn't a city demographic to compare that to, that's why it was excluded. As you can see, the data at the leftmost area of the chart suggests that we have strong representation, whether you're looking at it from a gender, disability, or age perspective. We have seen some improvement from 2014 to 2016 when you look at your income and your people of color categories. And as well as in education, where there is an opportunity to provide more focus and attention is looking at our renter representation on our appointed boards and commissions. So continuing with strategy one, we felt that it was important to also highlight the community indicator per the 2016 resident survey on resident trust and influence. Just to be clear, we don't necessarily own improvement on survey results, but we do think that we can actually contribute to improving perceptions to a certain degree as an NCR department. The 2016 resident survey report suggested a digital divide. When you consider the geographic areas of North Minneapolis and Phillips, we found that there were more residents that completed the 2016 resident survey via the mail-in response versus online. We think the key takeaways, as you can see in measure 1.2, that the city, the perception is the city actually operates ethically with openness and transparency. However, there is an opportunity to address how there's a gap in resident perception on how they can actually influence how decisions are made at the city that directly impact their lives. In the next cycle of the resident survey, we now have a benchmark that we can compare and track progress against. Second, as we continue to partner with the city enterprise on various engagement opportunities, where we could recommend where appropriate, more engagement activities that give residents the sense and belief that they are actually partners in not only identifying problems, but coming up with alternatives and possibly speaking to preferred solutions for the all concerned. So moving on to strategy two, and I'm just going to read it off real quickly, the support of strong, vibrant, and functional neighborhood organizations. This strategy ensures that the department and neighborhood organizations are working together to find creative ways to engage cultural communities in our city and to help neighborhood organizations function seamlessly. The graph to the left shows you allocations from 2014 to 2016 for both the Neighborhood Revitalization Program as well as the Community Participation Program funding. You could see the lion's share during this period was allocated for the day-to-day operational costs for running neighborhood associations. You're talking about salaries for your leadership and staff, as well as what's needed for communications, whether you're talking about their newsletters, event promotion, and professional services. That's all baked into that first category at the top, neighborhood organization administration. You could also see that a good portion of funds were also allocated to housing development and home improvement. So we are in the process of finalizing a report on the Neighborhoods 2020 cafes that have been going on for approximately the past 2 months, where they were community dialogues where we went out to specific sectors throughout the city of Minneapolis to ask what is the role of neighborhoods and what could their roles be starting in 2020 and beyond, and how could they best represent and serve residents throughout the city. We will, as a next step, we will compile the results from the Neighborhood 2020 Cafe dialogues, and we will come up with a recommendation, a report, and a recommendation to City Council in 2018. So similar to what you saw in the appointed boards and commissions, we also track diversity on our neighborhood boards. So we believe that board members are the decision makers. They're the ones that are very much decide how allocation, in a big way, they decide on allocations, governance, financial decisions, personnel. So it was important to, we've now 2 years running have been tracking specifically neighborhood board diversity. What made the 2016 Neighborhood Board Diversity Report more reliable from a data perspective is that we were actually able to increase the board members that participated and actually completed the survey from 2014, which was around 52%, to about 74% in 2016. Looking at the data, you can see we are good in the categories of age, income, and gender. We have seen improvement in the disability category. Pretty meaningfully. But more attention and resources we feel needs to be given to board diversity from not only a people of color, but also a renter standpoint. As you can see, these two categories essentially did not improve since 2014. The Neighborhoods 2020's Cafe, I like to mention, were also coupled with dialogues where we actually engaged cultural communities that didn't necessarily show up to these Neighborhood 2020 cafes in the numbers that we would like to see. I'm referring to our East African, Native American, and our Southeast Asian communities. We did this to ensure that the conversations were culturally appropriate and we were meeting these communities where they were at. We also feel that now that we have a baseline in 2016, we now have two levers that we could pull. We can either increase the recruitment of more diverse board members to our neighborhood associations and organizations. That speaks to the diversity piece. The inclusivity piece, which is the second lever, in my opinion, is about improving the retention. So you have folks that join neighborhood boards. Some have brief tenures, some have longer, but we want to make sure that they feel included. And what does that mean? Could they show up and be their authentic self in these neighborhood organization boards?
So I just want to ask a quick question about this, the graph, to understand it better. So if you get 100% in these, that means that the diversity in that matched perfectly the citywide diversity, and so got 100%. So when we say that it's 29% off on the own versus rent, we're not quite sure which direction it's off or how it's off. Our assumption here is going to be that, well, there's a large gap, and mostly we have homeowners probably who are on the boards, but it's just a little bit hard to know how to explain those to folks and what it actually means.
Okay. Well, Chair Gordon and committee members, no problem. So I decided to switch back to the ABC boards because that's where I have the calculation. So the color coding system is used to show how close we are to specific thresholds. So green means that you are within 80% or above the city demographic. When you're in the orange, that's between 40 and 79% of the city demographic. 0 to 30% means you're not tracking well against the city demographic. So for example, if we look at people of color, the math is actually goes as so. We knew that amongst our appointed boards and commissions, about 20%, 29% were people of color. You take that and you divide that by 39%. That is the people of color demographic per the 2014 American Census Survey, and you come up with 74%.
So what might be handy is if when we got on our Tableau and we were able to click on that 74%, it somehow would take us to tell us that here was the go ahead. And I was looking at a different one, but yeah, here's the demographic makeup of what we got from our survey, and then that we could see it. And next to that, there could be another graph that said, and here's the demographic makeup of the city, and this is how we got to. We have a 49% gap or whatever. So especially when you got to something like own versus rent, or even when you got to people of color, because then you could actually see, it's predominantly white or whatever, and there's some groups are represented well and others aren't. And it looks like on the dashboard we're not at that point yet.
So it could be amended.
That's a suggestion. Yeah,
it could be amended pretty easily. So what we could. So if I just want to clarify what you just said. So what you would like to see, not only for the appointed boards and commissions, but as well as the neighborhood board graphs, you would like to see kind of how that compares. What is kind of that variance between where they stand versus that city demographic, all on one graph?
Well, you could click to get to there, but it would be really right. So that would add the clarity when you got to the rent versus own, exactly what we're talking about. Because when we just see we're way down to 39%, and we know we want to be within 80% of the graphic. We're actually, I think we're getting more renters every year too, so it's probably changing a little bit. But
yeah, that's really good feedback.
That's just because then it'll be a little bit more useful, and people at home then can look at it and understand better what it means.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Did Councilmember Bender, did you want to add something?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just quickly, is it possible to look at this data at the level of neighborhood?
We actually, well, we didn't make that information public at this point, but
Chair Gordon and Councilmember Bender, we actually don't give that data out simply because it's potentially revealing very specific information about an individual. It's too easy to identify it. So we provide it in a aggregated level. We do have it disaggregated on a regional level in the city, but we don't go more than, we have like 8 regions in the city. I think we use the NCEC districts,
Right.
but we don't break it down below that.
I guess that's a question because I'm kind of interested to understand. So, for example, if you have a neighborhood that's majority people of color or majority renter or very high in either of those categories, do we see any patterns across the city of representation in those neighborhoods? I wonder if there's a way to aggregate the data. Neighborhoods that are more than 75% people of color or neighborhoods that are more than 75% renter, do we know how we're doing, or however you want to define, kind of very high? Do we know if we're doing better or worse or the same as across the city? And then just a second observation, I think there's a lot of barriers to participation, no question, but I see in my ward, which is 80% renter, I have 2 neighborhoods that are 90% renter. Renters run for the board and they don't get elected.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just want to just observe that, recruitment is obviously an issue in some neighborhoods, I'm sure, and there's lots of dynamics going on, but we have an underlying issue that even when people want to get involved, they're not sort of making the cut for whatever reasons or whatever the dynamics that are happening, they're not being included in the board. So that's just something I want us to consider as we look at policy ideas or guidelines that we may have, again, for these are neighborhoods that are 90% renter. I don't know if there are any higher in the city where people want to get involved in the organization and then just aren't getting elected to their board. So just as an observation for future policymaking.
well, and I also observed when we were doing this before that you'll have different demographics in different parts of the city, and we're basing our goal on the city demographic, which might apply to one neighborhood really accurately, but to another one it wouldn't necessarily. So having the expectation, for example, that you'd get, I guess it's wrong because your neighborhood figured out how to have mostly homeowners on it, your example, but some expectation if it was really skewed in a certain direction, if 90% of the people were over 50, and then we kept going back to them and saying, we're expecting you to have 50% people who are under 25 because that's our demographic or whatever, it would really be a burden to put on that one neighborhood given their demographics. And I don't know what the answer without sharing it might be for us to do a little of that work to share with them what the demographics of your neighborhood are. We get that from Wilder, who does it for us. That's available, and help them develop goals. It seems like ideally we could share some of that information, except you're right, we could give out personal information and then people would quit filling out the survey because they'd feel like they would be disclosed maybe in a way that they didn't want.
Well, Chair Gordon and council members, I'd like to address a little bit of that. I do take the advice that you were handing out seriously. The information, when we break it down into the regions of the city, really is for the purpose of looking at regional variances within the city or district variances within the city, so we can do a little bit better comparative of how neighborhoods within that district are doing. That gives us an idea where we need to spend some more of our time. But on an individual neighborhood level, the data is the census data and the demographic data for that community is available, and the boards of each of the neighborhood organizations know who they have there. They don't really need the survey data to validate that, in essence. We work with them to develop individual plans in order to create goals around which particular communities and how we can help them do that or achieve those goals. I will say to the Deputy Director Don's point there, the notion around retention is a big issue, and that we are seeing that people that do get elected, even we're having a difficult time for them to retain. So there's a number of kind of factors we're working on. I also want to assure you that we have been doing an extensive amount of research with other cities around the country. This is a fairly common phenomena across the United States. Seattle and Portland are trying a couple different experiments right now. We're working with them and kind of tracking what they're doing as well. we're trying different strategies as well as ourselves, and we'll keep you updated as those move forward and whether they have policy implications or programmatic to keep you updated on that as well.
Great. Well, thank you. I think I'll let you continue. You've still got a few slides left.
So for strategy 3, and I'm just going to quickly read this again. I'm sorry, for the first time. Increase the capacity of neighborhood NCR's community engagement efforts by working with community partners. This strategy will help the department look at ways to expand successful partnerships that are in line with the goals of the blueprint document and the city goal of One Minneapolis. This compelled us to track, and we were fortunate enough that we have actually been tracking this for quite some time. The annual attendance at the Community Connections Conference. Per the graph to the left, measure 3.1, you could see a consistent upward trend that we are proud to report has accumulated in a record-setting attendance record in 2017, of which the highest percentage of attendance from our communities of color was achieved at 42%, which is a 12% growth over the previous year in 2016, which was 30%. The graph to the right shows, again, the 42% attendance of people of color in 2017 and how that tracks slightly above the city demographic of 39%. So continuing on strategy 3, we track outcomes per the One Minneapolis Fund, which provides resources to community and cultural organizations for projects that, 1, develop leaders and engage community in specific targeted audiences, number 2, increase involvement in community and city leadership structures, and 3, identifies community issues and develops ways to address them. So per the 2014 One Minneapolis Fund outcomes graph that you see here, I'm just going to read some of the notable highlights. 318 residents have been engaged, 62 youth have been served, 7 people of color have been appointed to appointed boards and commissions, and 2 new policies or ordinances were created. The graph on the right, which is called the map of grant recipients, shows an intentional, equitable distribution of One Minneapolis funds across the city. To date, we are happy to report that nearly $500,000 has been allocated to many organizations to support 26 innovative projects. Since 2014, we also have been keen on revising and refining the project requirements per the One Minneapolis Fund, breaking that work down specifically between leadership development and addressing community issues. So moving on to strategy 4, ensuring departments are well equipped to conduct effective public participation. Given that we have many non-English speaking residents throughout the city, the NCR department coordinates almost 80% of language translations and interpretation services contracts, which by the graph on the lower half shows an increase of more than 400% between 2010 and 2016 from a dollar standpoint. Contracted dollars, which is represented by this graph here, for language interpretation specifically, is another slice of the data that provides some pretty meaningful insights. For example, in 2016, 65% of the contracted hours were for language interpretation specifically for our Spanish-speaking residents and 20% for our Somali-speaking residents. A notable collaboration that I think you all may be familiar with between 311, the innovation team, and NCR resulted in language lines for our Latino, Hmong, and Somali speaking residents. Between 2015 and 2016, language line calls increased by approximately 216%, primarily driven by the Spanish language line, which more than tripled over the same period. The Mi Ciudad radio show communicated directly with Latino residents the benefits of 311, what are the services, and how do they route their concerns or specific requests throughout the enterprise. The radio show also showcased not only city departments, what services they provide, what are their service mechanisms, policy updates on sick and safe time, and other programs. Going forward, we're going to take a page from this success story and explore the possibility of possibly replicating the success that we found with the Spanish language lines with 311, and possibly looking at perhaps we could come up with a similar or comparable radio show for our Hmong and Somali speaking residents, or perhaps we can come up with some public service announcements for the aforementioned groups. So the NCR department serves as the Title II coordinator for the Americans with Disabilities Act to not only ensure compliance with the council adopted ADA action plan and also federal regulations, but to also serve as a model for other U.S. cities. I know David, myself, and Nick have recently came back from the ADA Symposium Chicago, and I could, hopefully this doesn't come off, but arrogant, but I think we are well ahead as it relates to how we manage the system here at the City of Minneapolis as it relates to ADA. We're here to promote awareness and education on Title II and better accessibility throughout the enterprise. In partnership with 311, the NCR department created an ADA grievance complaints system, which provides a centralized location to study all related disability-related issues. The graph on the far left breaks that down, as you can see, between issues resolved by the NCR department specifically. This graph represents how many cases were resolved by other city departments. And then the last graph represents those complaints that were resolved by local businesses. Going forward, we will continue to improve on our reporting mechanisms, identify the diverse sets of accessibility issues, and improve on the awareness and the education to improve access for folks with people who do in fact have disabilities. So we're really proud about this page, Strategy 4 and Continuing Strategy 4, where we have expressed the myriad of community engagement initiatives that NCR has partnered with other city enterprise departments on from August 2015 to August 2017. Measure 4.6 shows the enterprise-wide initiatives such as the Minneapolis 2040, safe and sick time minimum wage, and the MPD body cameras pilot. And you could see how many community participants actually were involved in these discussions. Community dialogue outcomes, I thought it was really important to illustrate how many community participants were involved, city participants, how many community dialogues have been held, how many departments have been involved, just to give further context. And one thing that we were able to do that took some time to put together was how many additional topical engagement conversations did we have that included topics that you would both find at the national as well as the local level, such as immigration, Islamophobia, police and community relations, Latino home ownership. The fact that we were able to kind of take a step back and reflect on, like, wow, we did over 100 of these dialogues, I think is pretty impactful. So, Chair Gordon and council members, I think that this was probably a lot, and I think that it's important to pause to not only evaluate where we've been on this journey thus far, but also to talk about how we're going to be focused on improving this and growing this further. The whole point behind the blueprint is to not put your eggs in one basket, to come up with multiple strategies that could connect with all the residents throughout the city of Minneapolis to achieve not only impactful results, but to also sustain them over time. We are keen on your feedback, so if you have more feedback, please let us know. It is also worth mentioning that this whole process taught us that it's okay to try new things. There is no model to draw upon. As I mentioned, David attending the Phoenix Summit, from an engagement perspective, we didn't have a model to actually reference in this country, so we decided to create our own. It's not perfect, but we do feel that because we were able to actually align some metrics and measures to the blueprint, that reflected, again, a true collaboration between the community, the city, and also council who adopted the blueprint last year. We think that this is a good springboard to work off of going forward. So this completes my presentation, Chair Gordon and council members, and I'm available for any questions you may have, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the presentation and and your time as well. It's great to see the dashboard taking shape like this. I think within each one of these strategies, there's probably other things maybe we can be digging into or measuring. I'll just mention one. I don't want to take a whole lot of time, but when we're looking at helping other departments, I think one of the ideas is also looking at how well other departments are doing it. And it isn't that NCR has to go in there and do all that engagement for them, but how can we add the support that it's needed and maybe get those departments to be doing some things on their own too. And I know that the commission had a little group that we're looking at, this was some time ago maybe, a group that was looking, and I mean the Neighborhood Community Engagement Commission, at looking at how well city departments do their engagement and maybe strengths or weaknesses or whatever, and somehow incorporating that into the future, into the dashboard might be interesting to see how all that works. But I think this is a great start, and it's a great use of our blueprint for equitable engagement. So I appreciate you being here. I'm not seeing other comment. Councilmember Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just very briefly, I really appreciate this work. I think it shows that when we kind of put our mind to making improvement, it's happening. And so we just have some more areas, and I wanted to just acknowledge that. And I also just, I think it is important to have an enterprise-wide organization like NCR helping us meet new community expectations for all kinds of decisions that the city is making, as well as, like Councilmember Gordon just said, helping all of our departments engage folks, I think, kind of at the right time and level, right? So I think people often get involved, rightfully so, when a project or something specific is happening very close to their house. But those are part of big, huge policy decisions about transportation and climate change and housing, and how do we engage people kind of more on the front end around values and being planful about how these individual decisions kind of get made or how it fits into the big picture. So I'll leave it there since we're running late, but I just wanted to say I appreciate all of that.
Yeah, and I would just say, Chair Gordon, Councilmember Bender, and committee members, so what we do on a day-to-day basis, we not only have community specialists that go out into the community and ask them, what is it that you need? I would also give credit to some of our city colleagues that are thinking innovatively. One program that spoke to the needs of not only the African American, the Native American, and Latino community was the CPED, Vacant, and Rehab homes program. We were able to kind of take that program and do an engagement and go out to the community to say, hey, look at this program. It's something that we're hoping that could benefit you. And to, not necessarily to our surprise, it was something that they were really excited about, and they're hopefully going to, a lot of folks will take advantage of this program. So we're trying to do, it's a two-pronged approach, right? It's doing external scanning, speaking to community members, as well as finding out some of the things that are already happening in the city or plan to happen that could really benefit folks as well.
Chair Gordon and committee members, if I may just add on to that, one of the structural things that has been put into place as well, and with the leadership of the city coordinators, now we have the engagement design team, right, which is all the departments basically that support the other departments in their engagement work in one way or another. So it's a communications department, it's the city clerk's office, it's our equity office, it's creative city making. Gogoon sits on there as well as myself. And in there, what we are seeking are city departments to come in with their engagement ideas early in the process. We help them think through the IAP2 spectrum, the International Association of Public Participation, principles of engagement and the spectrum of engagement, really looking at what is the problem, what is the outcome they're seeking, and what is the purpose of public engagement along the way. And so we help them design, in essence, think through ideas on how to design an engagement process. And then also everybody around the table is getting a better coordination of how we support each other with that particular initiative. This started in August of last year and is continuing to meet, and is proving to be, at this point, we're getting departments coming to us. They're coming to us early. And so we can think through these engagement, these citywide engagement, enterprise-wide engagement initiatives more collectively and coordinated.
That might be something interesting to track, is how many times you meet and how many projects you look at and where they come from.
Absolutely.
And put it on there, as well as the people that are impacted. I don't see any other questions before us, and so I'm going to move to receive and file the report and the presentation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries, and then we're done with our business, and this meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.